Hi, my name is Megan Chappelle, and I did my author board presentation on C.S. Lewis. As a biography for C.S. Lewis, we can start with his legal name is Clive Staples Lewis. He was born November 29, 1898 in Ireland, and he died on November 22nd, 1963. He also had only one brother, and his name was Warren Lewis. It's important when we look at C.S. Lewis to find out what shaped and influenced his writing. First of all, he was raised in a literature-rich home, meaning that he was constantly surrounded and encouraged to be reading and in the books. He had a library in his home, and both of his parents were educated. That was a big deal in his house. Another thing that influenced his writing was the pain experienced when his mother passed away, and also later when his wife passed away. And finally, I think one of the biggest things was his conversion from atheism to Christianity, and this was a huge factor in his writing, especially later in his life. This is a quote. I just think it sums up how much he loved to read. He says, "You can't get a cup of tea big enough or a book long enough to suit me." As a general timeline for C.S. Lewis's life, we start with his birth, obviously, and then his mother died of cancer when he was only 9 years old. After that, he went to boarding school, dropped out, and then was tutored, and then later on attended Oxford. But he had to take a brief leave of absence from there because he enrolled in 1917 in the British Army. I labeled this slide "The Best Is Yet to Come" because as C.S. Lewis aged, it seems like his work and his life just got better. In 1929, he became a theist again, because when he was 15, he declared that he was an atheist, which was contrary to how he had been raised. At the age of 33, he became a Christian again, and then wrote Pilgrim's Regress, as well as a few other writings. And after that, he received several prizes, one being for the Allegory of Love, and in 1941, The Guardian published 31 weekly installments of the Screwtape Letters, and the money that he earned from that, he donated to charity. The final chapter of his life, he really seemed to never slow down. He was awarded an honorary Doctor of Divinity by St. Andrews in 1946. From 1950 to 1956, he wrote and published the Chronicles of Narnia, which is about a book per year. And then at the age of 58, he married Joy Gresham. In 1960, she dies from bone cancer, and then out of that, I said that was one of the things that influenced his writing. You can see that in A Grief Observed was published in 1961, and then he died in 1963. We just went over the timeline of his life, so here's some portraits that go along with that timeline. We start with him here's a picture in his childhood home about the age of 9. Then he enrolls in the Army, and this is a picture from that time. I mentioned that he loved to read, and this is actually a picture of him just showing that love of reading, and he did broadcast on the radio as well. Him and Joy married late, but they were obviously in love, as you can see in some of that poetry of the grief when she died, and he raised her 2 sons after she passed away. And then finally, he wrote more than 30 books, and that was to a vast audience over that time frame. C.S. Lewis was a professional. His work was diverse, and that included medieval literature, Christian apologetics, literary criticism, radio broadcasts, essays on Christianity, and fiction relating to the fight between good and evil. Here it just talks about a few things that other people viewed him as, which was a highly acclaimed author of science fiction, children's literature, a popular writer and broadcaster of Christian apologetics. This was a common opinion about him. The Pilgrim's Regress is the first book that he wrote after his conversion to Christianity. He did convert at the age of 33. The story likely depicts his own conversion experience, and it was his personal take on John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress. The Chronicles of Narnia are definitely one of the most popular fantasy saga that there is. it contains medieval allegory, classical legend, and mythology. This collection won the Carnegie Medal for Best Children's Books. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is a part of the series, and it was voted one of the most 23 significant books that shaped the 20th century. And I personally think, from a teacher's perspective, that this is great reading, or to be read to or to read, depending on their level of reading, for ages 8 to 10, middle elementary. And here's just a few interesting facts about him. He was a friend and a colleague of J.R.R. Tolkien, who is also a fantasy writer, and he actually contributes his conversion to J.R.R. Tolkien and the writings of G.K. Chesterton. And there's a picture of JFK here because he died on the same day as his assassination and also the death of the writer Aldous Huxley. And then finally, he was a committed Anglican and member of the Church of England, which apparently his friend J.R.R. Tolkien was not a fan of because he wanted him to join the Catholic Church with him. But he was buried in the churchyard of Holy Trinity Church in Oxford, and he, as you can see in this picture, he and his brother Warren shared a tombstone. So that is it. And then the final thing that I just love, and it's kind of the theory of his life, is I believe in Christianity as I believe that the sun has risen, not only because I see it, but because I see everything else. And I love that quote. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.